the news of the day in the NFL is that Matt Stafford has agreed to a new deal with the Rams. Now, he was allowed by the Rams to kind of test his market value and see if he wanted to be moved. And it sounds like that didn't go super well. So I could take it one of two ways with the Saints and how this impacts them or doesn't. It could be a situation where if nobody wants Matt Stafford, then certainly you don't want Derek Carr. If some teams did want Matt Stafford, but he didn't reciprocate that interest, and they're still shopping for a quarterback, maybe Derek Carr is someone they might want to look at. Because there's reporting that's being done that the Giants are very interested in potentially bringing Aaron Rodgers in. And I made the comparison earlier this week between Matt Stafford and Derek Carr, and I said Stafford's better, but Carr's a little bit younger, and they're similar in terms of their production. I would suggest that Stafford was in a little bit better situation with Sean McVay calling the plays in the Rams infrastructure than Derek Carr has been over the last 2 years in New Orleans. But I think he's a little bit better and a little bit older. And if you're willing to make a move for Matt Stafford, I feel like you're at least willing to listen to a situation where you could bring in Derek Carr. Maybe not, but maybe. I'm ratcheting that up a notch if we're talking about Aaron Rodgers. Because Aaron Rodgers was wildly mediocre this past year. Yes, one of the 15 most talented quarterbacks, best quarterbacks to ever play in the NFL. No argument there. The man is in his 40s. He's not as athletic and agile as he once was. There's probably not as much zip on the old fastball. I don't know how bad he even wants it. And his production was bad last year, and he was hurt the year before that. So if you want to bring in Aaron Rodgers, who is well past his prime and can be considered by a lot of folks as a locker room issue, or at least a head case in terms of his focus, his commitment to the team, his ability to show up for OTAs and all that kind of stuff, well, then you would have to listen to something with Derek Carr. I think you would have to. Say what you will about Derek Carr and his production or his talent level or any of those things, and I understand all the detractors that don't think much of Derek Carr at all. But he's going to show up. He's going to be a quality teammate. He's going to give you effort. He's going to play through pain. He's tough. He's team first. He says all the right things. Yeah, he had some dust-ups with his players the first year. But that's a guy who wants to win, I think. And so I guess let me do this. Let me phrase it this way. Beck, if I gave you, who's an average roster? If I gave you Tampa Bay's roster, that's an average roster.
Yeah.
Minnesota's roster, I think that's
pretty average.
Probably better than that. But and you took Baker or obviously Arnold or whoever off the front, and that's okay. You get with an average roster, you get 17 games of Aaron Rodgers or 17 games of Derek Carr. Who are you taking?
Probably Derek Carr because he plays. Aaron Rodgers hasn't played a lot. I don't know.
And even when he's played,
and even when he's playing, he hasn't been that good. But I don't even know. Yeah, we don't know. We don't know what we're going to get from Aaron Rodgers when he plays again. We just don't.
Correct. And I think you do know what you're going to get from Derek Carr.
You do.
You're going to get the 16th best quarterback in the league.
Yeah.
He's not going to throw 19 interceptions. He's not going to be overwhelmed by what you ask him to do, and he's not going to throw for 4,800 yards and 40 touchdowns. But he's going to be the 17th best quarterback in the NFL. And I feel like if that's what you're looking for, and you're looking for that in Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, like I think it's at least a question that has to be asked.
It has to be, yeah.
And I'm, again, all this is completely moot if what Mickey Loomis said at the microphone this week, we've got a guy we think we can win with, we're excited about it. And then Nick Underhill's reporting that he'll be back. If all that's true, then there's not a discussion. But I don't know that to be true, so you at least have to humor the discussion. And I realize that when I say this, and I've seen the comments on Instagram, and I've seen the comments on Facebook, and I've seen people on Twitter, and I get it. I understand that when I start talking about the merits of Derek Carr and why someone may want him, Saints fans immediately jump to the keyboard and go, this guy is an idiot. Derek Carr sucks. Like, I get I get it. I know how Saints fans feel about Derek Carr. I can look at Crew Day Tots, who's rolling today in the Mardi Gras floats that have Derek Carr battered and bruised on the front of a float with Mickey Loomis. I get how the city feels about Derek Carr. But you have to realize that that's in a bubble, and you're emotionally invested in the fact that the Saints have not been good for 2 years, and he's not Drew Brees, and you don't like him. But there's a different perspective that comes from outside the Saints organization, and NFL teams will trip and fall all over themselves for somebody they think can be a stable quarterback. It's just how NFL franchises look at this position. We're talking about a league that has taken very, very early draft picks on guys like Trey Lance and Jake Locker and, Paxton Lynch. This is what we're talking about. The first-round picks, early first-round picks. This guy, at least can play a little bit. So, again, maybe it's pie in the sky. Maybe I'm reaching. Maybe I've lost my mind. But if you're willing to kick the tires on 38-year-old Matt Stafford and you're willing to look at 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers and you're the Giants, wouldn't you just maybe, if you could get Derek Carr for a 5th-round pick, take a flyer? Because if I'm the Saints, I'm all about it. Any draft pick, almost any draft pick, maybe even a 7, almost any draft pick, I'm willing to look at and offload Derek Carr and take it. There's almost a no % chance your 7th-round draft pick can make the team. Almost. And I would still take it because it does 2 things. It shows a new direction for the franchise instead of just pedaling in neutral. Because that's what you're doing with Derek Carr powering your bicycle. You're a stationary bicycle. You're moving, you're pedaling, you're not going anywhere. There's no chance you're going anywhere with Derek Carr. At least at this point, you get out of neutral and you understand that your direction is either Spencer Rattler, some veteran on the cheap, whether it's, Justin Fields or Daniel Jones or whatever, and then you maybe go to the draft, but it's not trying to cling to Derek Carr. And that's ultimately where you're trying to get, whether or not the Saints want to admit that. So, to me, I'm hopeful. I mentioned this yesterday. It's kind of the same song and dance. But it really comes down to what is the news that we heard today? How is it relevant? Is it, well, nobody wants Matt Stafford, so of course nobody wants Derek Carr? Or is it that Matt Stafford wasn't as fired up to maybe go somewhere, but you could, now that they can't get him, you may be able to plug Derek Carr into that spot? I just have to think, if you're willing to kick the tires on Aaron Rodgers, that you're willing to kick the tires on Derek Carr. That, to me, doesn't seem ludicrous. I know it feels that way to Saints fans when you take one of the top 15 quarterbacks who's ever played and you compare it to a guy that you think stinks. I get it. But we got to be a little bit more objective than that and kind of survey the entire situation and look to see if maybe that's possible. And if Mickey Loomis isn't on the phone making those phone calls, he's negligent in his duties, which that's a whole different discussion for a different day. This day, we're just talking about this situation, but the point remains. The Saints need to try to move on from that. We've got a station survey coming up at LouisianaSports.net tomorrow that surveys the entire station, talking about what the Saints should do with Derek Carr in the quarterback position. And there are a lot of people that are on the same page, but there are some that see things differently. T-Bob's one of them. Jacob and I are kind of on the same page. And then you look towards some of the other guys that we talked about. So you can see all that up on our website, LouisianaSports.net, coming up tomorrow, probably first thing in the morning. Hey, it's Hunt. Thanks for watching Hunt on Saints. Before you leave, help us out a little bit. Hit that like button, leave your comments in the section below, and hit that subscribe button so you get all our content right here from Hunt on Saints. We'll see you next time.